Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today, so let's talk about AEW. Of course, the big story coming out of AEW at the moment, I think, is the association with Adam Cole, certainly over the course of the last few days. I mean, it's not the only thing when it comes to AEW. I think that's worth pointing out as well. Of course, the next couple of weeks, or the next couple of months when it comes to AEW are huge. AEW is doing great things at the moment. Last Wednesday's edition of Dynamite, the Dynamite Homecoming edition from Jacksonville, Florida, Inside Daily's placed it over 1 million viewers for the fourth consecutive week, the first time that AEW has even pulled that off, and the demo gets stronger and stronger and stronger. They're closing that gap, certainly in the demographic with Monday Night Raw. Obviously, when it comes to the viewership, they're closing that gap a little bit on certain weeks as well, but AEW's got a lot of momentum right now, a real groundswell of support they have, and as I mentioned just a couple of seconds ago, that the next few weeks and the next few months are massive for All Elite Wrestling. And Friday, you've got the debut edition of Rampage on TNT. I'm fascinated as to what that is going to present because arguably, even though we've got the debut edition of Rampage on Friday in Pittsburgh, of course, Dynamite this week is in Pittsburgh as well, but Rampage is going to be live on Friday. It's not the biggest episode of Rampage that's already been scheduled. The bigger episode of Rampage is next week's episode, the first dance in the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. Of course, that episode, most likely, we don't know, but most likely it hasn't been officially confirmed, but it will feature the debut of CM Punk in All Elite Wrestling. So huge couple of weeks coming up for AEW as we get closer to All Out on September 5th as well. So a real exciting time for All Elite Wrestling. But we are going to talk about AEW and Adam Cole because, of course, Adam Cole's upcoming free agency is a big topic of discussion right now. Of course, his contract expired with the WWE in July around NXT's The Great American Bash television special. He subsequently signed an extension that tided him over and the WWE over until just after SummerSlam. His contract reportedly expires with the WWE SummerSlam weekend. He signed that short-term extension to finish up his program with Kyle O'Reilly in NXT. Of course, there's all this confusion as to really what's going on with NXT right now. You've got talent being released left, right, and center. You've got a change in philosophy, a change in vision for what Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard and John Laurinaitis and Nick Khan and what those big senior executives within WWE really want from that brand right now. There's been discussions about Adam Cole meeting with Vince McMahon and Vince McMahon trying to essentially sell Adam Cole and re-signing with the WWE and pitches being made for him to join Raw and SmackDown. There's all this confusion as what's going on right now. And as is the case with anyone when their contract expires with WWE, but certainly a talent like Adam Cole, there's lots of speculation. What's the situation as to is he going to sign with AEW? Now, the AEW president, head of creative, CEO, general manager, all of his million titles, Tony Khan, has denied that the company recently made an offer, a contract offer to NXT star Adam Cole. It was reported on Friday via the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter that AEW has indeed offered a deal to the former NXT champion. The same report also said that Cole is negotiating a new NXT contract and he's not accepted any offers or either offer as of midweek. Furthermore, of course, it was widely reported by Fightful Select that Adam Cole met with Vince McMahon on Friday prior to SmackDown in Tampa. Reportedly, that meeting went well. We don't know if he signed a new deal then. I don't think he has. It hasn't been announced. But in an update, Dave Meltzer took to Twitter on Friday afternoon and said that Khan claims the original report is incorrect and he has not made an offer to Adam Cole. This is what Meltzer had to say, quote, Tony Khan said it is incorrect and he has not made an offer to Adam Cole. Now, this is fascinating because if you've seen me talk about AEW here on the channel before, you will know that I always say, and I believe it to right now, I truly do. When Dave Meltzer is reporting something about AEW, whether it's in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, whether it's on Wrestling Observer Live, the radio show, whatever they have, when Dave Meltzer is reporting something about AEW, it is accurate 99.9% of the time. The reason why it's accurate, and I'm not the biggest Dave Meltzer fan, I've criticized quite a few of his reports before. I think people confuse Dave Meltzer's opinions with actual factual reports. I think that's a big problem sometimes with social media and certain websites and Meltzer, etc. But when Meltzer's talking about AEW, it's 99.9% accurate most of the time because Dave Meltzer's very close friends with Tony Khan. He said that himself. Dave Meltzer even patted himself on the back when it came to the Wrestling Observer Awards and stuff like that last year when he said that people like to criticize AEW and they like to criticize Tony Khan because Tony Khan grew up reading the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Basically, Dave Meltzer is implying that Tony Khan learned everything from reading the Observer, and that's what made him a good booker. So by proxy, Dave Meltzer's a good booker as well. I think that's a reach, to be honest with you, but they're close friends. It's well documented that Tony Khan reads the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Dave Meltzer frequently talks with Tony Khan and AEW because a lot of people have criticized, and I think rightfully so, these big stories in the past when it comes to CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Sting, Jon Moxley, etc. Why didn't Dave Meltzer report that news when in reality at the time he probably knew? He probably knew those stories and he chose not to report them at the time. The reason he chose not to report them at the time is because, again, he's close friends with Tony Khan. And Tony Khan probably said to him, look, Dave, you might find this out after the fact, or I'm telling you now, please don't ruin this surprise for me. And I don't know how that would work out, but they're close friends. So the reason why that's significant, that they are close friends, the reason why that's significant is because if Dave Meltzer is saying in his Wrestling Observer newsletter that Tony Khan or AEW have offered a contract to Adam Cole, and now he's going, no, that's not true, probably he got a phone call from Tony Khan going, legally, we can't say that. Ultimately, Adam Cole, for as short time as he does have left on his WWE contract, is still contracted to WWE. We saw this happen a couple of times with TNA back in the day, and I don't think Tony Khan wants to fall into this same trap. He doesn't want to be seen as negotiating with someone that actively has a contract with WWE because there could be litigation there. There are rules in place and there's laws certainly in place he doesn't want to break. He doesn't want to end up in a lawsuit. He doesn't want to have litigation from WWE or a lawsuit saying you're negotiating with our talent, you're tapping up our talent, or they're providing you with confidential information, all that kind of stuff. I recall who was it that signed with AEW? There was someone that signed with AEW and I can't for the life of me remember who it was. It might have been Jon Moxley. It might have been when Moxley signed. I don't know. It was when someone signed with AEW. And Tony Khan was asked, it was after one of these pay-per-views, and he was asked, when did you start negotiating with so-and-so? And his response, very, very calculated, was when we were legally allowed to. So he's very aware of all of this. He's very aware of certainly when he can and can't speak to certain talents. And I think he probably has spoken to Adam Cole, whether that's informally, maybe he hasn't, officially put pen to paper in terms of this is what we're going to offer you and given him something to look at. Maybe, again, from the legal point of view, he doesn't want to do that. I think it's probably quite naive to think that at least intermediaries haven't spoken to Adam Cole representing AEW, whether that's Tony Khan himself, whether that's friends that Adam Cole has within AEW, which he certainly has a lot, whether it's the Young Bucks, whether it's his partner, for goodness sake, Britt Baker. There's no way people haven't spoken to him. And Adam Cole's certainly in demand right now. He's in demand from NXT, probably want to keep him in WWE. Certainly Vince, I think, wants him for Raw or SmackDown. Whether or not that's a good idea for Adam Cole remains to be seen. But also, people within AEW want him too. And he's got, obviously, a big decision to make. But I think with Dave Meltzer saying that AEW had indeed offered him a contract, I lean in to believe that's probably true. And the reason that Meltzer backtracked isn't because Meltzer got it wrong. It's probably because he was told by Tony Khan, you can't say that. Don't say that because I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get in litigation with WWE for no reason. So I think that's the situation there. Whether or not he'll go to AEW, that's another question. That's another topic to be discussed. And I don't know. I don't think that one's decided. I mean, if it was me, and I'm not saying this because you're an AEW mark or anything like that. If it was me, the things that are going on right now within WWE, certainly pertaining to NXT, would be enough for me to throw my hands up and just go, enough. I can't do this in this company anymore. Certainly if I was as an influential figure in NXT like Adam Cole. If I was someone like Adam Cole that spent 4 years building that brand, putting everything into that brand, for now to see Vince McMahon and Nick Khan and John Laurinaitis and Bruce Pritchard just creatively gut that brand, fire a load of people, including one of my close friends in Bobby Fish, and basically be told, it's developmental and we're going to be signing younger guys and bigger guys, and that's just about it, certainly which Adam Cole isn't. I would be in these discussions with Vince McMahon and be saying, how can I believe anything you're telling me? Ultimately, I can't. Because you've, one, got a history of lying to people, And two, at the very same time we're having this meeting, or just hours after we had this meeting, Vince McMahon, about how you've got these big plans for me, a load of people got fired from NXT. Again, a brand I helped build. How can I believe anything you would say? And that would be enough for me. Irrespective of creative, irrespective of friends and partners I had in other promotions, that would just be enough. I'd be like, I can't trust you to handle my career. And I would have more trust in going somewhere else where I feel like I'm going to get a better opportunity. Again, that might change, and we don't know. We don't know ultimately what Adam Cole's decision is going to be, but I don't know. It's a very big decision for Adam Cole, but he's certainly in demand, and I think he's going to make good money irrespective of where he goes. I want to talk about Paul Wight. Paul Wight's been doing a lot of interviews recently, and I mentioned these releases in WWE and a lot of free agents going around. I mentioned Punk's upcoming debut on Rampage next Friday. Bryan Danielson, the former Daniel Bryan, reportedly has signed with AEW. There's rumors he's going to debut at the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite in New York. Whether or not that happens or not, time will only tell. But Paul Wight was also asked about the likes of Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt, of course, recent releases for WWE too. So, in an interview with Ring Report, the AEW star and color commentator touched on these reports and noted how excited he was for Punk and Bryan's potential arrivals. He said, quote, "I'm excited about it. I don't really know. I've heard, of course, some backstage scuttlebutt. I'm friends with Daniel Bryan and CM Punk both. I think if either one of those guys made a serious commitment to come to AEW, they would blow the roof off the industry. I think both those guys are incredible talents and they have a lot to offer any company they join. Both of them will fit, and I like how they're treated much more in AEW than they will anywhere else. There's a lot more freedom for guys like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk to really excel and give the fans what they love most about them. There's very little micromanaging in AEW. There's a lot of trust in your professionalism and knowing who you are as a talent and what you bring to the table. There's a lot of freedom to really amplify and bring out the most for fans. Personally, from where I'm sitting, I think it would be an incredible opportunity for Phil and Daniel to come here to AEW. If they do, that's fantastic." So, obviously, Paul Wight probably doesn't know. I think Paul Wight probably knows as much as anyone else in the company or anyone else in the industry of they're probably coming in, Punk and Bryan, but we don't know officially. We haven't seen the CM Punk or Bryan Danielson is All Elite graphic yet. I think we will in the next couple of weeks, but he's right. And it's weird because that story's 2 or 3 weeks old now. Not that it feels old, but now that story is a couple of weeks old, it kind of dust is settled, and sometimes I still have to kind of say it to myself of, holy cow, Daniel Bryan and CM Punk are coming into AEW. That's a massive, it's a game changer, and I'm very excited to see what happens with that in the coming weeks. I mean, I mentioned at the top of the video here, I think Rampage this week is fascinating because next week's Rampage is a far bigger show. So what are AEW going to do this week that really makes you go, wow, next week's going to be crazy as well? Everyone's going to be watching next week anyway because they kind of know what's going to happen. This is the way that spoilers are actually kind of a good thing. When it comes to Bryan, I think the general feeling is September, again with that Grand Slam edition of Dynamite, but with the changes that are going on in the US at the moment, especially when it pertains to the Delta variant, mask mandate, certainly changes when it comes to mass gatherings in New York with outdoor events, indoor events. Maybe Bryan Danielson's plans change. Maybe Daniel Bryan debuts as early as this coming Friday on Rampage. I would doubt that, but anything's possible. Now, in addition to Punk and Bryan, Big Show Paul Wight was asked about other names such as Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt, and Ric Flair. He said, quote, "Absolutely, they could fit in. There's been a big influx in talent. For whatever reason, WWE has gone in a different direction in what they're doing as a company. Their business line is beyond me, and they do their own thing, and it works for them. They've had great success with it. The biggest difference I can relate to anyone outside is that AEW is a wrestling company, but also one dedicated to the talent. It's about the fans, but it's also about the talent versus being about just the company. We have talents who are available, and if they make their way to AEW, it would result in an incredible amount of freedom for them to continue entertaining the fans and to continue to grow. Anyone now who has been in the business long enough is smart enough to see where momentum is going, and you've got to agree that is with AEW. It's a great groundswell of support from fans who are really into the product. The storylines are unique. They have a different flavor and excitement about them. I made the transition myself because after 4 decades, I left as I could see the writing on the wall of where professional wrestling was headed." So I think that's pretty damning by Big Show, really, by Paul Wight. He's basically saying that, after being with WWE for over 20 years, he kind of realized that AEW is probably the place to be right now. And maybe he's just towing the company line there when it comes to talking about AEW, but I think he's kind of right. And I think WWE, this is why I'm so surprised with WWE's more recent releases, because whilst they do obviously have a company plan and a company vision of where they're going and what direction they're headed in, I think the surprising thing for me personally is that when people like Brody Lee and FTR wanted to leave WWE in 2019 and 2020, and eventually they did, of course. I remember Brody Lee saying, I think it was a conversation might have been with Triple H or someone in talent relations, and they basically said, look, we don't want to give the perception that people are jumping a sinking ship, basically implying that, we don't want to give the perception that AEW is this fresh, bright new company and it's a better place to be and it's got better content and everything's better. That's why all of these stars are jumping, in the same vein of how WCW did in the mid-90s. Everyone started to jump because that's where the momentum was. That's where people wanted to be at the time. And it's funny because they've kind of now gone in the opposite direction of they're happy for people to go there. And it's a bizarre strategy of just completely strengthening their opponents. And it's very strange. And like Paul Wight says, I don't really get it either. Finally, there was some familiar names backstage reportedly last week at AEW Dynamite Homecoming in Jacksonville at Daly's Place. Former WWE superstar and Cruiserweight champion Tony Nese and former Impact Wrestling Knockouts Tag Team champion Kiera Hogan were reportedly backstage at Daly's Place for Dynamite Homecoming. This is according to Cassidy Haynes of Bodyslam.net, who has been on fire, particularly when it comes to these AEW stories recently. Was first to break the reports of Daniel Bryan signing with All Elite Wrestling. Now, of course, Tony Nese was released by WWE back on June 25th. As noted about Kiera Hogan in our Impact video, she announced last month that she was leaving Impact to, quote, see what else is out there for her. I speculated in those videos that I could certainly see Kiera Hogan going to AEW as opposed to WWE. Of course, there's the Sasha Banks issues and drama. And I don't even know if WWE truly is hiring right now when it comes to them firing all their talent. So it's very unlikely she heads to WWE. I said AEW was likely because her partner, Diamante, is in AEW, and of course she was previously in a tag team with Ivelisse. Ivelisse got released because of her behavioral issues. I could certainly see a situation coming from a tag team of Fire and Flavor in Impact. Kiera Hogan could easily transition into a tag team of Diamante in AEW, so maybe that's why. But then also as well, she might have just been there because Diamante was there and she was just hanging out backstage. Sometimes people hang out backstage and it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to sign with the company, but that is what it is. It'll be interesting to see what happens previously. Now, as always, guys, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on these AEW news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.